Hello and welcome to the Zach Thinks Here podcast. Today I'm here with Tara Wedges, the CEO of Connection Codes. Tara, it's been a pleasure getting to know you the past couple months. We met, I think it was in November, December,
Yeah.
as co-business owners that provide services to help people better their relationships.
Yep.
And I remember, I think you showed me the core emotion wheel for the first time then, or as your the freebie that exists. And I was like, this is pretty dumb.
Yeah.
But I started using it. I was on your podcast. I think I took the foundations training,
Yeah.
and I've been seeing a lot of changes over the past, let's see, we're looking at like 8 months now, I think, of
Yeah.
us doing the core motion wheel on a fairly consistent basis. It's not every day.
Yeah.
I probably do it. I don't probably do the whole entire thing all the time, but I am labeling the hell out of
Mm.
so many of the emotions on there on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
A little backstory that I'm aware of is that you kind of discovered connection codes and then came to them and be like, I need to like help grow the business.
Yeah.
Working with Phyllis
Dr. Glenn.
and Dr. Glenn.
Yeah.
Uh, So what I want to start off with is, what was the difference that you saw and what you learned from connection codes that made you so intentional about wanting to be a leader within that organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2020, there was really nothing that we could do. And my husband came to me from a friend and said, "Hey, they're going to do this free, 1 hour a week coaching on Thursday nights. Will you do it?" I was like, "Well, there's nothing better to do. So I might as well just say yes to this." And typically I would say no to things like that, kind of like when I shared the core emotion with you the first time, you're like, I don't really know if this is going to do anything. But again, I had nothing else to do. And so we joined in, and instantly I was like, oh, okay, this is information I've never heard before. And backstory on us, my husband and I run a video production agency where we do video production for online thought leaders, like big name, best selling authors that are teaching incredible things. And when we heard this content, we were like, this is on par with the top of the top. This is something that has never been done in the emotional health space. And so I think it was week 2, my husband and I sat down to do the core emotion wheel for the very first time. And keep in mind, we worked together full time. We had been together 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at this point for probably 4 weeks during COVID. I was convinced I know everything about this man, and I really like him. Like, we are best friends.
Mm-hmm.
But when he shared with me the core emotion wheel for the first time, my insides, it was like my jaw was dropped. I was playing it cool. He couldn't see from the outside. I was in such shock over what he was sharing, but I was blown away at what was happening inside his body. And I instantly knew, this is different. This is different than any other communication tool. It's not that he didn't want to tell me what he was experiencing. He didn't have the words to describe to me and explain to me
Mm.
what he was experiencing. And so with our background in working with thought leaders and online entrepreneurs, I instantly was like, I want to work with these people. I want to help them blow this thing up. And it took me a bit to work my way in, earn their trust, because they were just teaching it in one-on-one therapy sessions at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually my husband and I stepped in. We filmed all of their courses. So we have the marriage emotional connection course that teaches communication, a late night sex course because Dr. Glenn is a clinical sexologist, and then a parenting course. And from there, I've stepped in and I'm running the business at this point.
I so I when you said that, like, it kind of revolutionized like how you were talking with your partner Wes. I feel like one of the things that I see, as a man in America, a lot of what I feel like a lot of men are told is like anger. Like, that's an appropriate emotion for men.
Yes. Yep.
That's about it. Like,
Yep.
shame, nah, that's anger.
Yeah.
Guilt, maybe guilt. But loneliness, nope, you're angry. You're
Yeah.
furious something, nope, you're angry. Sad,
Yep.
nope, you're maybe okay to be a little sad, mostly angry. So I
Yeah.
feel like one of the what I want to do in a minute is like do the core motion wheel because I think like just modeling it for people is really great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I think one of the things that one of the models or like the metaphor that I often give is so many of us have like all this stuff in our home, right? And like we have the donation basket that is clothes it. We have the box that you put clothes in. You have a box for tchotchkes and books. You
Yeah.
have one for all these different things. And imagine you have 8 bins. You have one really large one, which is probably joy. Another really large one's probably anger and maybe sadness. I
Yeah.
think for most guys, I think those are probably your top three. But then there's these like there might as well be cups is like how we use
Mm.
them compared to bins, and we're not used to putting stuff into those places because we're like, I don't really know what goes in that bin.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is what I've been given the opportunity to doing this practice is diversifying the way that I consider that I'm experiencing things
Yeah.
and giving a saying like, oh, similar to like you can even say flavors like, oh, that's what savory tastes like. That's what
Mm.
sweet tastes like. That's what these different things taste like. Um, and to Emma is watching on YouTube on live. She's saying who's the guest and what's the discussion about. Is we're talking about the core motion wheel. Tara's the CEO at Connection Codes, and we're talking about one of the practices that Connection Codes has taught me and got you excited to work with them and become their CEO. So,
Yeah.
um, rocks paper scissors. Do you want to go first or do you want to go second?
Yeah, well, can I share just a little bit about what
Sure.
you just said about especially talking about men, but also women? Because I have a coaching client that I was working with yesterday who is a guy, and he grew up very much wanting to be, he grew up on Clint Eastwood and John Wayne, men that are just strong and you don't get to see their emotion. And that's to him what the ideal man was. And as women, we're taught, like, okay, you're a crybaby or you're whiny, you're too emotional. And so we're giving all of these messages about what emotions are, and we often associate an emotion with a behavior. So
Mhm.
for my client, when he saw someone crying, that was an emotion. He was viewing the crying as an emotion. Or if someone is screaming and throwing things across the room, that anger, that's what they perceive anger to be. But that's behavior. And we're actually wanting people to recognize their emotion, because when you can
Mm.
touch the emotion, it can help you get more in control of the behavior and separate the two. Because emotions happen to us, we don't control when they fire. And I love the movie Inside Out too, based on what you're saying, is like that we have all those boxes. And as kids, we eventually send our emotions to the back of our brains and are told not to touch them anymore because emotions are bad. And at that point, anxiety, overwhelm, these big, complicated emotions take over our brain because we can no longer access our core emotion. So, this tool helps us relearn how to access those core emotions, to take them back from the back of our brain to being in control, and allows us to feel more in control of our bodies.
It's a really good point. Yeah, separating the difference between um, emotions and behaviors, which is like it's really the cause and the effect.
Yes.
Well, there's like the cause of what they're perceiving, then the effect on their body, and then their output via what's going on in their body.
Yeah.
Um,
And so many people don't want that output that they ignore the actual emotion. They just try to numb
mm,
themselves or, cut it off because they don't want the output, or they're so afraid of even feeling fear. We have a podcast coming out on the Connection Codes podcast soon about pain management. We're so uncomfortable feeling pain that we're just like popping ibuprofen every day. We don't even
mm.
know how to feel pain. And that same is true for emotional pain. We would just numb ourselves instead of understanding what sad actually feels like and processing it out, so then we can stop living in the sad and be able to experience joy and other emotions.
So yeah, coming back to the tool, the core motion wheel,
Yeah.
which is helping us better label the emotions that are going on with us, such that I know one of the huge things that as I work with people and a lot of guys on decreasing their defensiveness, I have noticed in myself I get way less defensive when I can label which of those emotions is the real actor.
Yeah.
And like I'm so much better at receiving feedback. Like even so, like the other night, Alyssa's been working on a new morning routine. We got this rower in our sunroom. She's been waking up a little bit earlier, taking care of the cats, the goats, does her workout, gets like
Yeah.
sweat going, takes a shower, comes up, and I've been still in bed. And historically, I've tried to make a good amount of health changes, and um, they've they've been met with, okay, well, I'm going to keep doing my thing over here. You do your thing, Zach. And the other night she was like, hey, I really need your help in like, I need you to come to bed kind of on time so that I can sleep, because she's impacted by me sleeping next to her. I'm not nearly as impacted. So I had this feeling at first. I was very frustrated. I was annoyed that she was pushing me to be in bed at a certain time. And I was like, okay, I know I'm feeling some annoyance, some, maybe we'll call it anger.
Mm,
There's probably something under that. And I was like, I'm gonna sleep on it because I'm still feeling hot right now. I'll talk to her in the morning. And I identified in the morning, I was like, what I actually feel is I'm feeling hurt
yeah.
that her life changes are worth both of us changing, but
Mm,
my life changes are not worth both of us changing.
mm,
And being able to label hurt
yeah.
and also say to her like, that this isn't necessarily truth, this is my perception. And I came to her the next morning, I was like, I'm asking for you to validate me and hear me, and you don't have to agree with this. Like,
Mm,
there may be many times that you have changed along with me and I'm not seeing it right now,
yeah.
but all I know is that I'm looking to feel heard and seen and connected with over this, and
Mm,
that this is my experience right now, even if it's not like the objective truth necessarily.
yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and she was able to hear what I said, and she's like, I'm I think she might have said like, I'm sorry you feel that way. And like,
Mm,
because I know it was genuine, even if like historically that wording might not have hit the spot,
yeah.
we had a hug, and I was able to kind of get over what I needed to be to bed on top in the way that she wanted me to show up and me
Yeah.
not be annoyed about it.
Well, that's such a great example because so often the anger will hit and we try to address the anger. So we'll either act
Mm,
out and angry, we'll get mad at our partner, yell, or, close ourselves off from them, separate ourselves from them, and just try to address the anger. But once you recognize that it's actually hurt underneath the anger, because anger can fire as a primary and a secondary emotion, which is why it can be so tricky. People are like, I'm just angry all the time. You're probably living in shame, hurt, maybe loneliness or fear. And when you're just addressing the anger, you're ignoring the root cause. And when you can get to that, you can connect with your partner
mm.
and with yourself, more important.
All right, now I want to give them the goods. So
Okay.
an authentic, just like live experience of the
Yep.
tool that
Okay.
helps us with this. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. And this is the 4 minute tool that our founders, Dr. Glenn and Phyllis, created that teach us how to identify the emotions firing so they can come from the back of the brain back to the front. Um, so I have anger that the other night my sister took my kids to the movies. She was coming in town, took my kids to the movies, got them an icy, and then at the end got them a box of Sour Patch Kids, their own movie size box. It's 3 servings, 77 grams of sugar on top of an icy. And then I had to drive her to the airport. So I was in the car alone with them for an hour and a half. And it was so much anger in that moment. Shame. I have shame recently. I have a lot happening with work and also balancing home and kids. And I feel like no matter what I'm doing, it's not going to be enough. Like there's at the end of the night, there's always more that needs to be done. And I haven't felt like I'm enough recently. I have guilt. Last night, Wes ordered groceries. They came at 10 p.m. and I laid in the bed. I didn't even offer to help unload the groceries. And so I have guilt that I didn't even offer to help him in that moment. I have fear. I have fear because this summer I am really focusing on work. And so my kids are kind of having a fend for themselves kind of summer. And I have fear that I am missing out on like valuable time. I know that I'm missing out on valuable time with them. So it's hard balancing the work and them. Lonely. I work from home remotely, so I have been in my room by myself the majority of the day. During the school year, I have a co-working space I can go to, but just being in my room all day has been super, super lonely. Sad, sad. I have sad. Uh, Yesterday, my son fell and scraped the bottom of his neck really bad. And I felt so sad seeing him hurt. Um, Hurt when my kids use their words to be unkind to each other and to me. That is super painful for me. And joy, uh, joy tonight is the first night that Wes and I are home together with no plans in a hot minute. And I just have so much joy knowing that he's going to be home soon, and I cannot wait to see him.
Pretty good. 2 minutes,
Yeah.
25 seconds. I timed you.
Oh, I did pretty good. Yeah, the goal is to do this in 2 minutes. So you actually will want to do it more often.
And I feel like is a huge part of what I think I do with a lot of my clients is helping them build habit changes. And so
Mm,
like, and, similarly, when people say like, how did you, like one of the things I'm proud to say, I think I've made 910 posts in just under 2 years,
okay.
mostly on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. And so how do you do it so often? I was like, I used to start with quantity. I've given myself permission to fail. Even the fact that this is a YouTube live, I told you, hey, we're going to do this live on YouTube for the hell of it to see how this technology works. Like
Yes.
constantly in the state of trying to figure out to fail forward. Where's I going with this? Um, I think it was Dr. Glenn had said in the foundations course that the reason it's meant to be 4 minutes instead of 5 minutes is the fact that people are much more willing to do it at four
Yes.
minutes total than if they're told that it takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so like knowing the perception that you need to have to effectively implement something and for me to hold you accountable to that, telling
Yeah.
people, hey, it's going to be 4 minutes. You got to get your time down to two personally
Yes.
so that you are more likely to do it. Like even one couple I was working with, they were saying, yeah, we could do it like 3 times in a week. We can do that. And it came back and I said, all right, how many times did you do it? And I said, we did it once. I was
Mm,
like, okay, let's look at if doing the whole wheel is 8, let's say you get 8 points for that. How do we get you the most points for the whole week? I
mm,
would challenge, let's look at the two that are hardest for you guys to label. Maybe it's
mm,
shame, maybe it's loneliness. And I want you to daily do shame and loneliness.
mm.
And, for the other partner, whatever their two were. So I said, if you think you can do two daily, then that gives us a net of 14 points, plus the 8 from the one day that you do the full thing.
Mm.
Um, I will take the 8 points over you doing the full thing once a week. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's important.
The goal of what it does is it helps us relearn what these emotions feel like. So when you're going through it, and they don't have to be big dramatic emotions. I mean, my son fell, and yeah, I felt really sad, but that wasn't like this huge dramatic thing. Because in this exercise, I just want my brain to know what sad feels like. I want my brain to remember what fear feels like. That way I can identify it in the moment when it's happening. So, this tool, the goal of it is just to retrain your brain what those emotions feel like. So, when you're hit with fear or hurt, like you were the other night with Alyssa,
Mhm.
now you can identify that was actually hurt that you are feeling, and you can process that out and be able to move on. Otherwise, we're just stuffing those emotions down, and they can destroy our bodies. Most of my clients are dealing with migraines, lockjaw, back pain, hives, because they've just been stuffing their emotions. And but learning to identify them, say them out loud, co-regulate with your partner helps you tremendously in your health, in your connection, and just helping your brain and body work better.
All right. Now I'm gonna take my turn.
Okay.
Let's see. And actually, before I do that, I know in the training, Dr. Glenn recommends oohing each other. So that's pretty
Yes.
pretty much having a very simplistic verbal response in a way that the other person feels like there's active listening happening,
Yeah.
but without really any significant input. Now,
Yeah.
I acknowledge while you were doing that, I don't think I made any actual noise, but I
Okay.
was nodding my head along, probably
Yep.
smiling, making
Yeah.
facial reactions. Does that count?
It does. I have learned because when I was first introduced to, he calls it the ooh, that felt really weird.
It
It's just
feels a little
like,
corny.
it feels a little corny, absolutely. But so I've adapted more of just like a, okay, yeah. Or I'll just say, yeah, or, ooh, I get that. And that just keeps the person in tune to know, hey, I'm actually hearing you, I'm listening to you, and it creates safe space for each other. We are so quick to become defensive or try to fix someone else's problem. And so I think it keeps us in a space where, okay, the only thing I'm supposed to respond with, if I feel the need to respond, is like a, oh, okay, yeah. It gives us something to do while also listening to them and not stepping in and trying to change what they're trying to say.
So
So,
it sounds like the short answer to my question is no. I did not qualify as doing it correctly.
well, no, not technically, but it doesn't have to be this, ooh, it doesn't have to be big or
Yeah.
anything like that. It can be really subtle, small. Sometimes touching your partner can also help fill that space. But it's really the goal is to create safety with your person, and you
Mm-hmm.
will find what works for you. There are some people that are like, no, I want to hear you, ooh me. I want to know that. And for other people, they're just like, yeah, no, just touch me, just nod, let me know that you're listening. Let's talk about it after. And so it's different for everybody.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't need, I think, Alyssa, I have a hard time, especially when I'm speaking it, making eye contact.
Okay.
And so when she's the recipient, I think I sometimes I like kind of bring my eyes up with like
Yeah.
sad puppy eyes almost of like,
Mm,
did you hear all the things I had to say?
yeah.
Um, and I feel like that is kind of enough. And like the fact that there's no reaction on the other side is actually
Mm,
pretty good for me.
yeah.
There's no, because there's moments where it almost feels like you're throwing little jabs at them. But because the goal is safety,
Yeah.
like y- you know that they're holding a purposeful emotional like punching bag so that they're hitting the bag. You're hitting the bag and not them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because I'm trying to think of, I'll go through mine now. Okay.
Okay. Great.
You can show me what good oohing sounds
Okay.
like or looks
Okay.
like. So anger. I keep coming back to this one. Is I feel like every time I hear anything about the current state of the election coming up, that I am just angry with these are our options.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shame. I feel shameful. I think when I get on a call with someone that's interested in my coaching services and they either can't afford it and or the
Mm,
time that I have allocated for those programs just doesn't fit
mm,
anywhere near their schedule. And I feel like I'm pricing out some people and or some people just like they don't have the life flexibility to be able to show up to it.
get that.
Guilt. I feel like there's guilt in there as well, but I'm going to point to something else. I felt guilty the other night when my friend visited from West Coast. Whenever he comes over, try to spend some time with him since he's on the coast, and stayed out till I think I was at his place till midnight. Came back home, texted Alyssa my ETA, and then had to pause because I was getting sleepy. And then I didn't want to call her, but I just shared my location, and I was afraid that I might like wake her up and or like I didn't give her optimal um, updates with my
Mm,
location.
yeah.
Fear. I have fear. I think that I won't have the most amazing relationship that I hope for with my
Mm,
daughter by the time she grows up.
mm,
I really miss my college friends, and I have a lot of fear in calling them and being like a disruption to their day, and
yeah.
that I think by not calling them, I won't get rejected, and so I won't
Yeah.
have to feel any kind of pain around that, and so
Yeah.
I just assume letting what feels like some of the friendships disintegrate just over time and lack of connectedness, which also brings me to sadness. Is I think the state of a couple of my relationships with my friends. It's just been really quiet for a couple of years now with some of them, and I just feel sad. I I'd like to think that I've given them calls along the way,
Yeah.
and I probably haven't put out as much effort as I think I have, and I'm sad about that. Hurt. There's the example of last night. Is I felt hurt when Alyssa was asking me to make changes for her, but
Mm-hmm.
I was. She is not like when I went to last Thanksgiving. I said I was going to stop drinking alcohol, and she's not said like, yeah, I'll do that with you. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess there's some loneliness around that too. And then joy, I had a significant amount of joy this morning. We were hiking a little bit in our backwoods, and we discovered these orange salamanders kept popping up.
Oh.
And I said hi, friend, to one of them, and my toddler parroted me while she was on. So she's, hey, can I do it? I want to do it. And so we bent over and she said, hi, friend, to these little orange salamanders. Brought me a lot
Yeah.
of joy.
I
All right,
love that.
that was terrible for time. That was three minutes and a quarter.
That's okay. That's okay. I mean, there are definitely times that we do it where we are overtime. You know, we do it on our podcast every episode, and there are times even with Dr. Glenn and Phyllis, I'm like, y'all are over time, but you actually did them accurately. So when you're doing the core emotion wheel, if you can't think of a recent time you felt that emotion, especially in the beginning, try to think of a big time. So it could be something that happened in your childhood or something, 2 years ago where you felt hurt
Hmm.
or sad, or if you can't think of that, you can make something up. So Dr. Glenn says it is better to say something than to not say anything at all, because the goal of this exercise is to learn what that emotion feels like. So I have a 9-year-old son, and when he was about 7 and we were doing the wheel together, he would always make up the lonely. He would say, I was on a desert island all by myself. And he would be really dramatic about this lonely moment. And I just rolled with it. I was never trying to pressure him to no, think about something that actually happened. And now I did the core emotion wheel with all of my kids last night together. And that dude pinpoints loneliness better than any one of us. I mean, what he
Hmm.
shares are such exact split-second moments that happened in his day. I mean, yesterday it was something that happened over a friend that it literally happened within 30 seconds, but he knew that that's what loneliness felt like.
Hmm.
And he was able to share with me and process that. And I loved that because I had no idea he experienced that day. It was so connecting for all of us to hear what was happening. And so if you can't think of something, it is okay to make it up. Having the accuracy of what that emotion would feel like is so much more than the accuracy of the actual experience that you're sharing.
It's really interesting. Yeah, I think for fear, I think was probably my longest pause, and I was searching for something very recent. I think typically finances, and as a fairly new solo entrepreneur,
Yeah.
having this be my only source of income. Alyssa works too, but like if I'm not getting paid, our mortgage is not getting paid, that has been a consistent fear, and I've been trying to. All right, I guess another question is, so you can make stuff up. uh, it occurs to me as valuable to come up with different things. So the election one has been, I think I've shared that as anger probably the past 5 times I've done the wheel.
Yeah.
And I think money is a consistent fear. Is it
Yeah.
valuable for me to just do what I know is fear, what I know is anger, or is it a little bit more valuable for me to get a little creative, find something else?
Yeah, no, I don't think that changing it is necessarily needed, because again, when you're actually doing the exercise, it's just about identifying what it feels like. Because the goal of the exercise is so tomorrow, when you feel fear over something different, you know that that was fear, and or you feel anger over something, you know that that was what anger was. Because so often there are emotions that we have a hard time touching. Just by doing that, you'll get better and better of recognizing it, and it'll change, it will evolve. My lonely has pretty much been the same for the last 3 weeks. Every time I share loneliness, it is
Hmm.
I'm working by myself. Hearing my son share his loneliness last night, I was like, whoo, I need to like tune in to my loneliness a little better, because pinpointing that exact moment was really impactful for him. But no, I think when you're actually doing this exercise, just saying it is okay. because again, the goal is to do it in the moment.
I feel
Now
like
my
you must
husband and
have
I,
some of the most regulated kids on the East Coast.
well, they know how to share it, but they are still kids that are
Hmm.
they pop off. So my daughter recently, whoo, Lord, we had a day with her. She is 10 and she had just come home from summer camp. So she was having those summer camp blues, and the girl's brain exploded. I mean, her brain exploded. And within 10 minutes after, when she settled, I we came together, and she immediately was able to tell me everything that was happening for her in that moment. She was like, the reason I exploded, she didn't use those exact words, but she was like, I felt so sad that I got woken up, and I was hurt that somebody told me to clean my room immediately after just waking up. I had so much fear because my friends were coming. Like, she shared with me all of her emotions
Mm.
without me ever prompting her to. She was like, I feel so much shame and guilt that I spoke to you the way that I did. And so for me as a mom, those explosions are still going to happen, not as often, honestly, as they used to. But at the same time, I want them to have the tools so they can find out what was happening in their body. So as they grow, they can actually put words to it. Where there's been another time with her 6 months ago, she and my husband were at like struggling with some miscommunication. And about an hour passed, and I finally went to her room, and I just put the core emotion wheel in the middle, and they both went through the core emotion wheel together. And she goes, oh my gosh, if we had just done this immediately, that would have saved us so much time. Like, she said that. And I was like, yeah, girl, that's the whole point. So Wes and I now, we do the core emotion wheel when we are needing to connect. Yesterday morning, again, we haven't spent much time with each other recently. Our schedules are just opposites. So we got about a 20-minute walk yesterday morning, and he said, let's just start with the core emotion wheel. Let's just know what's happening with each other. We don't do that as much. Now we do it in the moment when we're experiencing something actively,
Mhm.
or when we're in conflict. If we feel a conflict arise, like over a past trauma or an issue that we struggle with, we just dive straight into the core emotion wheel. And that has eliminated so many arguments that used to disconnect us for hours, days, even a week. Now we can see what's actually happening with each other very, very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Huge ditto on that one. Is I think there's so many moments in the past 6 months or so that like could have easily turned into me doubling down, getting defensive, and uh, being able to identify, one of those eight, speak it out loud. And Alyssa she's much more receptive to hearing that I felt hurt about something, or
Yeah.
that I felt guilt or shame. And like, she's not going to need to like pound it into me. Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, I think there was like a moment where she probably asked me to do something, and then I said, "Yeah, I'll do that," and then probably didn't do it immediately. And then as I was walking in that direction, "Hey, did you do that thing yet?" And maybe I lie about it, or maybe I'm like, "Yeah, I was just going to do that." And then she's like, "Were you really?" And
Mm,
historically, might have doubled down and said like, "Yeah, I was totally going to go do that," like because I'm feeling guilty. I'm like, I'll say like, I'm feeling really guilty right now that I lost track of that. I did not set up the appropriate structures that I know that I need with ADHD to actually execute on doing that thing. I should have set a timer the way that I know that I need to.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. And then there are times in those moments where, if, like, for example, if I have done something, well, if Wes has done something that has hurt me, and I'm sharing with him, like, I feel really hurt that you did this, I'm okay. Like, it's really not a big deal. I just need to get this out of my body, and I just need you to ooh me right now. Or if it's over something logistical where we tend to go into the fixer mode and I don't need him to fix it, I just need him to hear me. I just remind him, like, I don't need you to do anything right now. I just need you to ooh me. I just need you to
Mm.
validate that my emotions matter and what I'm feeling matters. You've done nothing wrong. I just need you to know this was my experience. And that is also incredibly helpful because it creates safety and it builds trust between the two of us. And yeah, I mean, it's changed the game for us.
Tara, thank you so much for coming
Well,
on and
can I
sharing
say
this
one
with
more
me
thing,
today.
Zach,
Yeah,
before we
go
go?
for it.
Only because this is the number one question we get asked. And so I want to answer it in case
Yeah.
any of your listeners are wondering the same questions. The number one question, and that is, why are so many of the emotions bad? And I'm using air quotes there. Like, why are so many of them negative emotions and there's only one positive emotion?
For the recording that I'm going to put on Instagram later, I'm going to ask you the question. You're going to respond.
Okay.
Tara, I asked you a question a couple months ago, which is why are so many of these damn emotions bad? Why are they all bad? What do we do with
Yeah.
this?
Yes. So that is such a misconception about emotions. And that's also where emotion is tied to behavior, where we see anger and we assume that it's bad. But emotions are our guide. They are there to protect us. Fear protects us. Anger is our driver. It's what gets us going. It's what makes us want to exercise. It's what makes us want to change the world. It's anger is our driver. Guilt and shame, or I need to do better in this area. I need to change something. Loneliness says, I need more support in this area. I need to find connection with other people. And hurt is like, you need to fix something here. There's something happening that you need to change. And joy, obviously, like that's dopamine. That is, hey, do more of this. This is good. But even joy can be damaging. Joy is the reason people cheat on their spouse. Joy is the reason I lay in my bed and watch TV instead of helping Wes unload the groceries. Joy is just as quote unquote bad as any of the other emotions, but they are there as our guide. They are not good or bad. And I also think it's interesting because initially, you were describing those boxes and you're like, you have this big box that's joy. I have found in doing this work, most people, as we age, we actually have a harder time identifying joy. We get so caught up in the day to day of the anger, of fear, anxiety, overwhelm that we lose our joy. I have a really hard time touching joy, and that's something I'm retraining my brain to find in the small moments. I'm quick to say, "Oh, sad. The milk spilled. Sad. Oh, you fell. Hurt." I have a hard time. I've been telling Wes, make me say joy more often because I want to find more and more joy in my day.
Hmm.
I think especially as women that are bogged down with so much of the mental load and life and work, and it's hard to find joy in those moments when you have kids that are throwing up and a sink full of dirty dishes and an endless task list. It's really
Hmm.
hard to find joy. And then yeah, I will say that that is a huge piece of it.
Maybe it's because I've
That'll
been gratitude journaling for 10 years straight that
yeah,
joy's easy for me.
yes, and that's the exception for sure.
Hmm.
Yes, I would say you're an outlier in that.
That's good to know that I'm outlier because I definitely make assumptions based on my own experience. That's good to know.
I get that.
All right. Well, Tara, thank you so much for coming today. I think I was excited to have you because this has been such a powerful tool for us
Mm-hmm.
that, I'm always hesitant to talk about things until I've tried them. And I now
Yeah.
have significant amount of results and experience
Yeah.
working with it, teaching it, coaching it, and doing it. So I'm really grateful for what change you're helping bring to this planet in the way that you are. Um, I know I put a link in the YouTube, and I will put a link in the show notes for connection codes. There's the foundations course, which I took. I haven't done the late night one yet, but it's probably on the list at some point in the near future. The
Yeah.
parenting one probably is coming soon now that
Yeah.
our almost 3 year old can articulate.
Yeah.
She can. I tried getting her to do one the other day. She can articulate sad and hurt and happy and mad. She
Okay.
doesn't vibe with anger, but she gets mad.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I
so
get
yeah,
that. For a long time, my now 5-year old, he would just mimic, because for the kids, we have an emoji wheel. So he would just mimic the faces, and I'll be like, ooh, anger. And that, even just hearing the way they sound, made a difference for him. And also, you have a discount code for your listeners
hmm
for foundations. So
oh,
if
that's right.
anyone is wanting to take foundations, you can use Zach's discount code. I'm pretty sure it's just Zach.
Yeah,
And they can get 20% off of the course as well, and the core emotion wheel for free.
thank you for reminding me of that. I forgot.
Yes, yes, that's what I'm here for.
Awesome.
Awesome.
All
Well,
right,
thank you
thank you,
so
Tara.
much. Yep.
Bye.
Bye.